Welcome, everybody, yet again to the third episode of Birds of a Feather here on YouTube. I am one of your hosts. I am Michael Chromiak. I am Chrome. I am here with our good friend, Chucks Charles Moranin. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in again for the third week. Should be a good one this week.
Yeah. We're going to condense it a little bit. Obviously, for we have some time constraints for some reasons. But we got we're going to be ready for next week. We have one thing we want to start off with, obviously. There is some big news coming for us, even though we've only been on the air for a few weeks. We have some big announcements coming up in the coming weeks. We're not going to give it away tonight, but what we will say is, we're going to be on another show coming up. Charles, is that correct?
Yeah. We'll keep teasing it a little bit. We'll tell people that just stay tuned, and the the announcement will come sometime next week. So
Yeah.
if you follow me and Chrome, you're friends with us on Facebook or any social media, just keep up with us, and we'll be announcing it sometime next week.
Yeah, actually, we'll be announcing it Wednesday night. So if you are here on YouTube, if you are on Facebook Live, you can actually catch us. We are going to be on A2D Radio on their Wednesday night show that starts at 9 p.m. It's Tom and Mike, AM and the PM, also featuring my good buddy, Greg Malakovic. So check it out. We're probably going to make a little feature on there, and at that point, we'll make our big announcement. So we're really looking forward to it. A lot of really exciting stuff in the works that have come up very quickly, progressed very quickly, and we're really excited. So please do check it out, and we'll be promoting that throughout the week as well. But in the meantime, we had quite a big game this week, and again, we do apologize. We're not going to get too deep into everything this week. We can always rehash next week because we're going to have a little extra time with the bye week. But huge win this week on Thursday Night Football with the Panthers. That was, to me, aside from Kansas City, this was our first big NFC challenge. And obviously, my prediction didn't come to fruition. I had them losing by 10 or 13. You had them winning by, what, I think it was like 3.
Something like that.
Yeah, so it ended up being quite a game for us. You really got to see the Eagles click on all facets of the game. The passing game, I was a little concerned with the running game in the first half, but that seemed to pick up. And I was really a couple bonehead calls by Doug as well. Doug Peterson, the head coach. And obviously Nelson Aguilar, he dropped a pass. So, but no, I mean, it was a really exciting game to watch. And I'm really that coming into this week, it seems that we're going to be a little more healthy. Just a real quick, throw us a couple of your thoughts from last week's game.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say it was definitely the statement win that we wanted to make. A lot of people were expecting the Panthers, and rightfully so. They are still a really good team, but a short week on the road, Eagles came out. It was a tough first quarter, tough first half, and they were we were possessing the ball a lot, but we had the turnover in the beginning and couldn't punch it in. But then we forced that turnover late, which ended up in the second Ertz touchdown, and we tied it up. And so that was a good way to end the half. And it was overall the defense again was just all over. The run was we completely stopped the run. If you take out Cam Newton's scrambles, we completely just shut them down. I think they had like negative running yards by the running backs. So that's great stuff. We were forcing turnovers by Cam. He threw, I forget how many picks. But just overall, again, great win. I'm sure that everyone's already heard a lot of recaps about it. And so, we don't need to get too much into it. But I just felt like it was a win that this team made to show that they are legit. They are for real because this team doesn't have, too much of a glaring weakness outside the secondary. They're a very balanced team, and they showed it on that Thursday night a week ago from tonight. So it was great to see, and I was very impressed. And it gives us I think for those who are kind of little like hesitant to buy in, I think that win definitely put them into the category of just you can actually feel good about this team going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously, the elephant in the room with the game too was Pete Morelli and his refereeing crew. We're not going to hash too much into that, but when you have one penalty for 1 yard and what was it, like 9 penalties for 99, whatever it was, how many yards? I don't have the stats because we weren't even sure if we were going to do a recap. But that's a disgrace. That's got to be a red flag to the league that they have to start looking into this. And again, the track record shows with Morelli with Eagles games. It's been an absolute disgrace, and I think we'll dive more into that next week when we have a little bit of free time. But I would like to definitely get further into that. We're not going to do that tonight, but let's not forget the reason I do bring it up is because to round out last week's game, I think that showed the heart of this team for them to. I mean, it was the game was handed to Carolina. There was every opportunity for Carolina to win that game, and it just didn't. The Eagles just overcame every obstacle that was thrown their way. Some phantom calls, some calls that went one way and didn't go the other way. It was a little bit crazy. But to me, coming out of this week, obviously with all sides of the ball working really well, that was the biggest thing I took out of it was the heart that this team showed to continue to fight, continue to overcome, and I was really impressed with that. Now, obviously, we're not going to do the whole crazy churro because I think we have the same things here. Carson Wentz, huge game this week. Both of them are going to be joint ones because we have the same. Carson Wentz, monster game this week. He showed his eliteness and ability to lead this team down the field, call the plays at the line. And, I mean, you were with me watching it. Nigel Bradham, I mean, this guy is an absolute monster. It was Nigel Bradham and everybody else on the field. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but that guy had that kind of a game. Every play, every significant defensive play, he was on the field. And he was in there making tackles, knocking balls down, making big hits. I mean, I love this guy. And he got me so excited this week watching this defense. And I hope that, and I truly believe that that's going to be something that's going to continue on from him.
Yeah, I think that Wentz is deserving of the churro for the offensive side, and Bradham is deserving of the churro for the defensive side. He didn't lead the team in tackles. He had 7, I think. Kendricks had, I think, 10.
But he was in on every one.
Not disrespecting Kendricks because he played amazing game as well.
Monster game.
That stood out about Bradham is in his 7 tackles is, for one, like he was around the ball almost every play, even if he didn't get the tackle. And his tackles that he made were crucial. I can't remember. Like there was one play where I could have sworn the Panthers were going to convert the 3rd down, but he just came flying out of nowhere and stopped them a yard short. I think that's the play he injured his shoulder on, and we were all kind of worried that he'd be out, but he came back in, thank God. But I think it's the pivotal tackles that he made that made him stand out, and so he definitely deserved the churro for this week on the defensive side.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with everything you said there. So now going into this week, we're going to change it up. We're not going to do a divisional review. We'll save that. And I think it's a great point. Coming off of this big win, and some teams with some big losses, and really a lot of question marks that are starting to show around the league. So you put NFC, but I actually want to even shift that. We can answer that. Who's the biggest competition in the NFC? But my question is, who are the elite teams in the NFL right now? Who do you believe in? Because I could give you my answer. There's only 2 teams right now in the NFL that I actually believe in, that game in, game out, even in losses, or their one loss, have still showed that they are an elite team. Consistency all around, on all sides of the ball, special teams. And to me, and even at the quarterback, to me, that is the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Even New England. I mean, you look at New England, and there's just been so much inconsistency there. And Tom Brady is still Tom Brady, but he's 40. I think you're seeing 40-year-old Tom Brady. I do see some holes starting to slowly creep in, and I don't know if it's because it's a younger team now. They have had some injury issues, but that's more so on the defensive side. I mean, he has Gronk still there, and he's got a lot of weapons, but even New England, people came into this season predicting New England was going to go undefeated, which was absolutely friggin' insane to me. But, you look at it now. Kansas City, to me, is the elite of the AFC, and the Philadelphia Eagles are the elite of the NFC. And to your credit, bringing up last week, too, with that cloud hanging over teams like Dallas, where, every week there's some kind of a subplot or some kind of a little sidebar headline going into the week. This week, Zeke's playing, Zeke's not playing, and now Zeke's playing again. It's like it's all over the place. I mean, I just don't see any other team that has the consistency, is built to win on a week-to-week basis in the NFC than the Eagles. Now, if I was to pick a challenger, Aaron Rodgers going down. Obviously that changes everything, because Green Bay was the other team I would have looked at, but not having Aaron Rodgers is huge. But so taking them now out of the equation, the team that I look at that's the most challenged overall in the NFC is the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think that you've seen as much consistency with them, but they are a scary team, especially at home. I don't know that they're going to get a home game, but if they can somehow get a home game in the playoffs to kind of boost them and get them a little bit of momentum, I'd be scared to play them if they can get any kind of momentum towards the end of the season. But them aside, I'm not impressed with Atlanta. They're too inconsistent. Minnesota is inconsistent. There's just nobody really that scares me. What are your thoughts?
All right. So to address the NFC side first, I'll go and I'll say, and it's funny because I might seem like the little bit of the Debbie Downer here, the negative Nancy compared to you, but even though I do, the Eagles are the class of the NFC right now. They are. They are so far 7 weeks in, however you want to look at it. They've shown the most consistency and balance of anyone in the NFC. So they are right now the best team in the NFC, no question. You can't really debate that. Thing is, from my experience, I've seen too many things happen over the course of the season. Watching football for several years, where it might take until maybe week 12 for a team to start clicking. But the thing is, once they start clicking, and they can go on a roll, and we've seen it with the Giants, we've seen it with the Steelers when they won the Super Bowl. I forget what year that was, but we've seen it so many times where a team comes out of nowhere late in the season, they catch on fire, and all of a sudden they steamroll in the playoffs and they end up in the Super Bowl. So I'm trying here not to be arrogant, because I don't want, because as great as the Eagles are, I can't say definitively, one, that they're all going to stay healthy all year, and two, I can't say that none of the teams below us right now aren't going to pick it up, aren't going to start figuring stuff out. Going down the list, I made a list of NFC teams that you could put in the discussion. And, I went Redskins, Cowboys, Packers, Vikings, Panthers, Saints, Falcons, Rams, Seahawks. I'm not too scared of Redskins, Cowboys, because, with them being our division, I've said my concerns are about the Cowboys. The Redskins I'll touch on, when we do our preview. So I'll talk about that later. The Packers, of course, they lose Aaron Rodgers. When they lose Aaron Rodgers, everyone else, the talent level and everyone else goes down, because he makes everyone on that offense better, and he helps that defense. So with him gone, that whole team, it just isn't the same. Now, I personally, I'm a Hundley fan. I liked him coming out of the draft. I thought he was a good developmental prospect at the quarterback position, and he's been studying for the past 3 years under Aaron Rodgers. So I actually think Hundley could come out and be pretty solid, and the Packers still have a chance at the division, in my opinion. However, when you're talking about a deep playoff run, if they have no Aaron Rodgers, they don't have a chance. And that's what I believe. Now the Panthers, I still think they have their flaws. in terms of Cam being a passing quarterback. I've said that many times. I addressed it last week before the game. So that's why I don't think I'm not too worried about them either. The Rams, their offense is rejuvenated and under their new coach, they look like a very promising team within the next couple years. Goff has made a giant step forward in his development in his second year because of their coach McVay, and that's great to see. I just think they're still weak in the secondary on defense. I think their wide receivers still are kind of lacking. They have Cooper Kupp is good. Sammy Watkins is still, a good deep threat, even though he hasn't clicked yet with Goff. I think it's only gonna be a matter of time before they do. They have obviously Gurley, who's running like a madman again. So he's playing as one of the top 5 running backs in the league. So the Rams are good. It's just that I think there's still holes there that can be exploited. So I'm not too worried about them. The 4 teams where I think could find their footing and could be a threat in the playoffs. I'm talking about in the playoffs are the Vikings, Saints, Falcons, and Seahawks. And to touch on them real quick, the reasons why I'm not going to overlook them is because with the Vikings, yeah, they've been a little inconsistent, but at the same time, they're playing with their backup quarterback. Case Keenum is not going to be their quarterback if they're going to make this late playoff run. I believe with Sam Bradford's career potentially being over, I think that the door is open for Teddy Bridgewater to come back later in the season and be that spark for that offense. They have a lot of good talent. Even with Dalvin Cook going down, Jerick McKinnon and Latavius Murray are, they're decent. They're not horrible talents. They're decent.
Yeah, but you don't know what you're going to get from Teddy Bridgewater at this point.
You don't know what they're going to get.
That's a huge question mark.
That's a big question mark. But the thing is, what I'm saying is that defense is legit. They're a very, very, very good defensive team, and sometimes all you need in the playoffs is a really, really good defense, and you need just your offense to manage. I'm not saying they are the favorite. I'm just saying that I could see it happening personally because I think their wide receivers, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, they don't get talked about enough. That's a top 5 wide receiver duo in the league. They are deadly. Diggs is one of the best route runners in the league. Thielen also, he can get open. He looks like a young Jordy Nelson.
He's looking great this year.
They're both awesome, and Kyle Rudolph is a reliable tight end. They have pieces on offense, so I'm not saying they're the favorite. I'm scared of them. I'm saying I can see them catching fire late.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is just to respond to that though. I mean, you're asking a quarterback that hasn't played in a year and a half potentially to step in a playoff run situation with your best weapon, Dalvin Cook, is out.
Yeah, that's a lot to ask.
That is
a lot to ask.
A lot of hypotheticals.
Yeah, I know it is a lot of hypotheticals, but remember what the Broncos did a few years ago. They had Peyton Manning. He was a below-average quarterback when they went to the Super Bowl, but that defense was playing at an elite level. This Vikings defense can play at an elite level, and Teddy Bridgewater, if he comes back and just plays solid, manages the game, they have the weapons there to be able to be a reliable offense, and that's why I put them on there. I can't write them off as not being potentially catching the team that catches fire later on. Getting into the Saints, they are what they are offensively. They're always going to be what they are offensively. That's no news. That's not breaking news. But on the defense, lately the past few weeks they have gotten better. Cameron Jordan has been playing lights out. So him, and their rookie cornerback Marshawn Lattimore have been playing great. So that defense is a lot better than it's been the past few years. And if they can have an above average defense going into the playoffs, they can make some noise. The Falcons, their offense isn't the same as last year. I'm not scared of their offense right now because losing Kyle Shanahan was huge, and you can see it. However, I'm not going to completely write them off because if somehow they find a way to get their offense clicking, it's a scary offense still. So I'm not going to write them off either. And last but not least, like you mentioned, the Seahawks, their playoff experience, I think, could be the X factor if it were a playoff game between us and them. we would finish by the way it looks, it would be a game that's in Philly, which would help us and be at our advantage. And I get that. But the thing is that they are such an experienced team. And Russell Wilson, I think I've told you this before. Russell Wilson is like one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. He is clutch and he's just a magic man. So I think sorry. Hold on one second.
All good, no worries.
Go ahead. Why don't you relay my thoughts and then I'll get back to you in a second.
Yeah, no, I mean my whole thing with that is you're talking a lot of hypotheticals with that. And that's something that I look at. I mean, you're talking about a lot of hypotheticals. To me, I don't think that Seattle is I pick Seattle because I don't think they're that far away. I look at Seattle and I see Seattle, and to me, they haven't been the same team. Inconsistency a little bit, but if they start clicking, like they have the pieces there, and I see them as the more viable option. But if we're talking about you're running down all these teams, and there's so many hypotheticals that I'm just looking at right now. I'm not getting, and I know you're not saying I am, but I'm not getting rambunctious or overly confident. I'm strictly speaking on what is being seen. It's not me. You could watch television and all the analysts see it. This was a very telling game for us. And to me, I'm looking at this list and you give a lot of great reasons and potentials, but there's so many hypothetical things that go into that. I'm going by what I see now. A lot of things got to fall in place for those teams. We don't need the things to fall in place. We just need them to stick as they are. Even if, knock on wood, I'm not saying a major injury, but even if we were to have, which we have had, areas where we have injuries, I would look at Darby as a major injury. When we missed Cox for a couple weeks, not having Lane Johnson this week getting attacked on the right side the first half of the game, those are major injuries that do affect you. And we still managed to overcome and still managed to tighten up every other aspect of the game to compensate for that. I don't see these other teams, with the exception of Seattle, being able to, with the team they have right now, make those kinds of adjustments. So I totally hear what you're saying. I just don't see many of those teams as, if I went into playing them as they are now, or even with one or two, upgrades or guys that come back from injury, I'm confident in the way that we've played, even with reserves that have had to come in the secondary or on the offensive line, that I feel like, oh man, we're out of this. Like we're the underdog. I just don't feel that way, and I shouldn't feel that way with what they've seen, or what they've given us to look at. So I hear what you're saying. I appreciate a lot of what you said there, because you definitely make a lot of good points and things to watch for if they come to fruition. And again, with this question, I can't go by, well, I don't want to say this because we could have a major injury. I'm not anticipating that. We should never anticipate. They happen. But if it happens, it happens. But as the landscape is now, what is the team that scares me? Seattle. Nobody else on that list scares me. Not a single team on there.
And you know what? That's my whole argument that I'm making, is that there are things that need to happen for those teams to become a contender, and that's what I'm saying. I guess I'm just trying to be cautious because of all the years we've had letdown. I'm trying to.
If it happens again, it happens again. It's not anything new. It doesn't mean I'm not going to have confidence in my team. You know what I'm saying?
But that's just my point. I see. What I'm saying is those four teams that I mentioned, the Vikings, Saints, Falcons, Seahawks, I see a potential threat down the line because they have certain positives in their teams right now, where if their issues are worked on, and they find a groove, they could be a threat down the line. Right now, as it is, you are 100% correct. There's no team in the NFC that can hang with us, and that's the truth. And I 100% agree with you. I'm just looking as, like what I said earlier, in the playoffs. If I'm trying to look at teams that could make some noise in the NFC and be a threat to us, for one game. And, that's the thing about football. It's one game. Anything can happen in one game. What I'm saying is those four teams have pieces there, and, they have talent, and they have things going for them that could swing the game in their favor, and they could, I guess, quote unquote, upset us in a playoff game. So that's my point. But right now, I agree with you. A lot of things have to happen for those teams to get to that point where they can hang with us and they can be a potential threat.
Right. So let's go into this week now. Let's get our preview in before we wrap things up. Give me your thoughts on this week coming in, Monday Night Football against Washington, which, by the way, I looked, my flight actually lands at 6:30. I'm going to Orlando tomorrow for the weekend, so I'm going to miss all of Sunday, unfortunately. I'll be in Universal Studios, but
Oh, boo-hoo.
I know it's a terrible thing.
Make sure you get a churro, okay?
I know. Believe me, bro, it's happening. But it's yet another nationally televised game, and we seem to thrive on these types of games. So it's a divisional game. And to me, as I said in previous weeks, this is the team in the division that I think is they're the second biggest threat in the division next to us. They're the team that if there was a team to make a run and if we were to slide a little bit, I truly believe that this team is going to be that team. So how do you feel about us going up against the Washington Redskins this week?
So again, the first thing I'll do is I'll address the injuries. We're playing Monday night, so the injury report is for as of today, and they get that extra time. But as of today, the Eagles injury report looks pretty clean. Bo Allen, Ronald Darby, Jordan Hicks, and Timmy Jernigan were limited in practice. It looks like Jernigan and Hicks are most likely to go. But Bo Allen and Darby are questionable. It looks like Darby is the one who is most likely not going to play, but there's still a chance. Coach Peterson said that he doesn't want to rule it out yet. So who knows? We might see the return of Darby. And it's ironic he left during the Redskins game and he could come back during the Redskins game. So that'd be kind of cool. But we'll see how he progresses tomorrow. I'm crossing my fingers. I would hope he plays, but if not, he'll definitely be in there next week, I think. Full practices for Lane Johnson and Wendell Smallwood. They look like they're going to play. For the Redskins, they are beat up. And I'm only going to name like their main players because there are a bunch of rotational and depth guys that are injured too. But Trent Williams, their left tackle, did not practice. He's probably going to be questionable. Josh Norman, Rashad Breeland, and Rob Kelly were all limited. Norman's going to be out. Rashad Breeland and Kelly are going to be questionable. Breeland might tough it out. Kelly looks like he's leaning toward the doubtful side. And then their big injury they had this past week was Jonathan Allen. That's huge. So I'll get into that matchup and what that means for that Redskins defense going forward into this game. But those are the injuries. I will address first. Let's go into the Eagles defense versus the Redskins offense. What I see in terms of matchups right now is Terrell Pryor and Samaje Perine, who are probably obviously Pryor's the starting wide receiver. Perine's been starting in place of Kelly while he's out. They've been disappointments. Pryor all season, just he hasn't developed his wide receiver skills yet. He's not on the same page as Cousins, and it's showing. Perine has continued to struggle. He's not, and I've never been a huge Perine fan coming out in this draft. A lot of people were, but I thought he's just a power back with. He doesn't have really good feet, and he's nothing. He doesn't do anything outside of that department of being just a downhill bruiser. He struggled. Josh Dodson has actually come to life a little bit. I think he's had a touchdown each of the past 2 games, but for some reason they're still limiting his snaps. He's the one wide receiver I'd say could have potential to do something, but if he's not playing a lot, he's not playing a lot. It's fine with me. Jordan Reed is still suffering from his injury. He's not at 100%, and it's showing because he's not showing that athleticism that he usually is known for. Their go-to guy on offense right now is Chris Thompson, and he's pretty much, they're passing down, change of pace guy. But he does get a lot of a significant. I wouldn't say a lot, but a significant amount of carries because Perine struggled, and they love going to him. So he's the guy again we need to watch out for. Remember that in week 1 he had that highlight reel touchdown that was pretty embarrassing for the Eagles defense. So he's the main guy that the Eagles defense is probably focusing on this week. The one matchup that is probably the premier matchup is the Redskins offensive line. Scherf, Morgan Moses, and Trent Williams, they're all good linemen. And, Scherf and Williams being the tackles, and Moses being the right guard, they've been pretty much keeping Cousins clean for the past few weeks. In the games after week one when we played them, they've only allowed 4 sacks in 4 games. That's really good. The good thing for us is that we don't generate a rush just solely from our defensive ends. We generate a pass rush on the interior as well with Cox and Jernigan. So that's a huge advantage to us because they can focus on having those tackles cancel out Graham and Curry and stuff like that. But if they're going to still have a hard time containing Cox and Jernigan in the middle. So do you have any thoughts on that side of the ball before I go into the other side?
I gotta unmute,
Yeah, you
dummy.
go.
I'm mute because if I don't, for some reason, I don't know if there's like a background sound, but it keeps flickering the screen back and forth. That's why I mute it while you're on, so your face stays
Gotcha.
on
No,
there.
that's fine.
I'm not quite, I'm gonna let you keep going just because I think you're getting through the ins and outs. I have a very, very simple view on this game, and I know you're gonna give us all the facts and stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
I know we're on a tight time schedule, so you finish up your end, and then I'll throw out my very, very simple analysis of this game.
Gotcha. Okay, so if we're going into the other side of the ball, the Eagles' offense against the defense, the Redskins secondary right now, it's bad. If Breland plays, it's him, Dunbar, and Fuller, and that's nothing to write home about. Their secondary consists of Swearinger and Everett, who are liabilities in coverage. They can get beat deep. So look out for the deep ball in this game that could be exploited by the Eagles. The Redskins linebackers are a good group, though. They've got Ryan Kerrigan and Preston Smith on the outside with Zach Brown and Mason Foster in the middle. That they held the running game in check week one, and I get it. Our running game wasn't really anything to write home about, first 2 weeks of the season, but they are capable of holding our run game in check if our blocking assignments are not there. So keep an eye out for them. That's a good group that they have in linebackers. Something that I was watching today per friend Duffy, he does tape breakdown for the Eagles. He pointed out that to generate pressure, the Redskins like to use a lot of stunts and twists between their linemen and linebackers. And then they also like to force handoffs between linemen and running back. And what that means pretty much is force handoff is pretty much when you you isolate 2 linemen and then you put 2 defenders on another lineman, forcing him to pass off one of the defenders to a running back in pass protection. And what that does is makes a lot of confusion. And so a lot of times when I was seeing in the tape breakdown is the Redskins generate a lot of pressure because on those handoffs, the running back would be late to pick up the second blitzer. So that's a big thing that I think big thing that Peterson probably gonna have to focus on this week. I'm sure he wants to find better ways to limit that pass rush because the Redskins pass rush has got to us the last 3 games that we played them. And so that's very, very important going into this game. And the last thing I want to talk about is their defensive line. Without Allen, honestly, there's nothing really special there. Stacey McGee, Ziggy Hood, Terrell McLean, they don't really pose significant threats on that line. So our line has an advantage there of pushing them back, and maybe that'll help attack those linebackers and kind of neutralize them a little bit. So that's that. And there's can't forget this. Their kicker, Dustin Hopkins, is on IR. So they're playing Nick Rose, who's a brand new kicker who has never played it down in the NFL. Keep that in mind. I mean, I know we had Jake Elliott and everything, but Jake Elliott, that first game, he did miss a kick. So keep in mind with Nick Rose there kicking, I think we can expect maybe like 1 or 2 missed kicks in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it simple also. Thank you for all that because that was great. I'm going to keep it simple. It's a team we could definitely throw the ball against. We can run the football a little bit to open up the passing. Think you could definitely exploit their secondary. And as far as we just our defensive line needs to step up, play up with that offensive line, and simply that's Doug's got to not make bonehead play calls. I think everything's kind of rolling on all cylinders. I am overall have been very impressed with how Doug has schemed every game. His scheme with his coaches has seemed to have been very well. He still makes douchebag stupid calls, but for the most part, I mean, Doug's been really good this week. I don't anticipate that there's going to be much of an issue there. We need the secondary's got to step up. We can't give up bonehead, deep balls and create any kind of momentum for them to throw the football. Because then, I do believe that Kirk Cousins is a guy that if he can get on a roll, he gets on a roll. So simple. You went through all the details of. I don't need to. Very simple. We can run the football on this team. We could definitely pass the football on this team. So I think that you're probably going to see more pass than run this week. Maybe a little more passing than we have seen, but it's going to depend if their defensive line lets us run the football on them. LeGarrette Blount's a dude that'll run over bitches. So, but we'll see. So with that, what is your call as far as how much do you think we're going to win by, lose by? Where are you at? Where do you have the score this week?
So, all right. So for my predictions, I'm going to highlight for my player spotlight real quick. I'm going to highlight Alshon Jeffrey again this week because last week I predicted he'd have a big game, and he would have if it weren't for 2 non-pass interference calls on the defense. Thank you, Pete Morelli, for not calling them. But if it weren't for those pass interference calls, Jeffrey could have had 2 deep balls to go his way. So, saying that, I think the matchup again is favorable for Alshon Jeffrey. I think he's going to have a touchdown finally in this game. So he's my player spotlight. As far as my prediction, the Vegas line right now is at I think my cousin said 4.5. Eagles are giving 4.5, and for a home game, that's pretty low because home teams, as he explained, they pretty much get -3 anyway. So with that, it makes it kind of, if you take away the home field advantage, it's -1.5, which is pretty low. So with it being a division game, you can see an upset. Yeah, definitely. It's a division game. Anything can happen. However, breaking down these matchups, I can't see a scenario where the Eagles don't exploit all these weaknesses that of the Redskins defense. And it's really tough right now to see the Redskins finding a way to just score enough points and to stop this Eagles offense from just passing all over them. Honestly, they're going to generate a pass rush, I think, here and there, but I think also that it's not going to be enough this time. I think we'll contain them a little bit better than we have before. I think that the score is going to end up being Eagles 30, Redskins 23.
Yeah, I think I was torn between 2 guys this week of who I think is going to be the standout. Because I think Ertz is going to be very important this week again. But I'm going to go with Torrey Smith. I think Torrey Smith's going to open up that passing game. We're going to exploit. He's going to carry that momentum that he's starting to get finally with Carson. And I think it's going to exploit the secondary even more, which in turn will then open up the running game for us. But I'm going to go with Torrey Smith this week having a huge game. I think he's going to get at least 1 touchdown pass, and I think it's going to be a deep bomb. With that, I have the score. I'm flipping it this week. I had the Eagles losing by 13 last week. I have them winning by 13 this week. I'm going to go with the Eagles 27 and the Washington Redskins at 14. So we shall see how it goes. Charles, you want to plug your social media, buddy?
All right, as usual, my Twitter handle, give me a follow at Chucks Maranan, that's ChuxMaranan. My blog is chucksmaranan.blogspot.com. I didn't have an post this week. Like I said, I usually do long form posts. So nothing struck me this week. So we'll see what happens next week. But give me a follow if you haven't read my Aguilar piece. It's one of my favorites that I've done so far. So give that a read. Again, Twitter handle Chucks Moranin, and blog is chucksmoranin.blogspot.com.
Cool. And me, you can find me. I'm on Twitter at Heel Chrome. I'm also on Instagram at Heel Chrome. I am on Facebook if you want to add me on there. You can find us on Twitter at BOAF1933. You can find us on Facebook. We are going to likely open up the group very soon. And again, guys, we got a big announcement coming up. Please, if you can, if you're free Wednesday night, it's a great show on A2D Radio. It's Tom and Mike, Tom and Mike, AM and the PM. Also features our buddy Greg, and we're really looking forward to bringing this big announcement to you guys. Lots of cool things coming. So with that, for Chucks, for Chrome, we're gonna sign off this week, guys. Enjoy the game Monday night. Enjoy your football Sunday, and we'll talk to you Wednesday. We'll also have our own show here on YouTube next week. Until then, guys, Chucks, have a good night, buddy. Chucks, you have a good one.
You too, girl. Enjoy Florida. Get that churro, and yeah.
Damn right. Hell yeah, I'm going to be eating probably like 15 churros. That and a turkey leg in Epcot when I go to the Food and Wine Festival. But with that, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Go Birds, and smell you later.